It's a very serious matter. Very, very serious matter. Because, Doc, it borders on the commission of a crime. That is why it's a serious matter.
Which one is a crime?
And you see, it doesn't only border on the commission of a crime, it borders on a confession by Richard Ahiagbah that he has committed a crime. Yes, that is what he has just done.
How?
I don't know who has been advising him, because, like he said, per his stature, I would have expected him to have conducted himself more, to have conducted himself lawfully in this matter.
How?
Because when you are at this level, the expectation is that you should know the basic rudiments of our electoral process. Doc, voter registration in Ghana is governed by law. Voter registration in Ghana is governed by law. You cannot engage in registration and voting per your own whims and caprices. You must do so in accordance with law. Now, from what I gather from the circumstances of this case, clearly Richard Ahiagbah is eligible to be registered as a voter in the Ketu South constituency because he's a resident of the area. He may not be ordinarily resident. I think he's ordinarily resident in Accra, but he hails from the place and therefore has a residence in the place. So for me, I have no issue with him registering there. The issue is that he himself has confessed to voting in the 2020 elections, both the presidential and the parliamentary, when his name was not in the voter register. He himself, he says that he turned up at the polling station to vote on 7 December 2020. But that his name was not in the register.
It didn't be found.
It means it was not there.
Yeah, but he had
no.
Just hold on a minute. He says that he had his voter ID card.
I know, he said that.
Which clearly states where and whatever. He
to
presented
vote,
it.
you don't need a voter ID card to vote in Ghana.
He says that he presented it. The EC looked through, they couldn't find his name. They did the biometrics. It didn't come up.
Yes.
But they had some list somewhere, quarantine.
There's nothing called a quarantine list in an electoral process.
And they allowed him to
That's
vote.
a cock and bull story. There is nothing called a quarantine list anywhere. Doc, this is the point. In Ghana, you cannot vote in any public elections unless your name is in the voter register.
So even if you've lost your card, but your name can be found.
Found in the register, you can vote. So the primary condition that establishes your eligibility to vote is not even the voter's ID card. Because you can lose your voter ID card. But if your name is in the register, whether you have a card or not, the law says you can vote. If your name is not in the register, you can't vote. Our brother here went to the police station. He has confessed that they searched for his name. His name was not in the register. His biometrics had not been captured. Therefore, he was not entitled to vote. He was not a registered voter. I am not making this up. The law is clear. What is the law that governs voting in Ghana? CI 127. Public Elections Regulation 2020 is the latest law on voting in Ghana. And if you check Regulation 32 of CI 127, this is what it says. Regulation 32. It says that identification and verification of voters. 32.1. A polling assistant may, before delivering a ballot paper to a person who is to vote at the election, require that person to produce a voter identification card in order, Doc, listen, in order to establish that the person is the registered voter whose name and voter identification number and particulars appear in the register. So they ask you for your card to check if you are the one who has showed up and that your name and voter identification number is in the register. The sub-regulation 2 says, in the absence of a voter identification card, the polling assistant shall identify the name and particulars of the voter as recorded in the name reference list. So it goes on and on to tell you what the polling assistant can do after that. If your name is not in the register, there is no remedy for you. It means your card cannot be authenticated. It is useless. And therefore, you are not entitled to vote. Now, Regulation 33 further says that a voter who desires to vote shall be present at the allotted station, and the presiding officer or polling assistant shall, after being satisfied that the voter is registered and has not already voted or is voting as a proxy, deliver the ballot paper to the voter. Is registered. So clearly you were not registered in 2020. That is why a new, fresh registration has been done for you. You were not registered. If you were registered in 2020, a new registration would not have been done for you. Doc, you understand? You were not registered, and that is why your name was not in the register. And I have the register for the polling station where you voted. Do you know what they actually did? This is the impunity is what makes me sick. They actually wrote his name in ink in the register. I'm going to forward this to your producer.
That was on the voting day.
On the voting day?
Yes, because they couldn't find it.
Because his name was not in the register. It's as simple as that. They wrote it in ink. What would be that? In which country? Tell me. In which country can you go to a voting center to vote? Your name is not in the register. The law says if your name is not in the register, you can't vote. And they write your name in ink to allow you to vote. That's the height of criminality, the height of impunity. So what happened in 2020 was a crime. And Mr. Ahiagbah has confessed to committing that crime. Because he himself says that he went and his name was not in the register. The EC has checked their database. His details are not in their database. So why did he vote in 2020?
But if from his point of view, he went to register. He was issued a card. On voting day, he went with his card. For one reason or the other, his name and biometrics could not be found. He believed that he had gone through the constitutional requirement to be on the roll. It wasn't his fault that he was there. The EC, which was responsible for the elections, decided that, well, they could make him vote. They could allow him to vote. How does he commit a crime?
If somebody abets you or assists you to commit a crime, it doesn't exculpate you from liability. The person only becomes an abettor. It doesn't mean that the crime has not been committed.
So how did
and
he
the person who is punishable under the law?
How did he
also, hold on. There are many ways that people get cards in this country. So number one, the fact that Richie says that he had a card doesn't necessarily mean that he acquired a card through legitimate means. To make that conclusion, you are making an assumption. Anybody, right? No, you see, first of all, let's forget the fact that he's our friend. Yes. Because this is a serious platform and we must interrogate the issues in good conscience with a sense of objectivity. This is a man who says, I had a voter's ID card.
I want the EC to explain.
Let's go step by step. He says, I had a voter's ID card.
Yes.
But my name was not in the register. And my biometrics are not in the database. I'm saying that number one, we can't say for sure whether that card he claims that he had was authentic. Number one, legitimate question. You can see conclusively
that by the law, even if he had registered and his name was not found, he was not eligible to vote, and he shouldn't have voted.
I'm going there. So the first thing is that the card he claims to have, we sitting here can't conclude that it was an authentic card. Number one. Number two, if you registered, assuming that he registered legitimately and was given a card, but his name on voting day was not in the register, he bears the responsibility, not the EC. The reason is that when you go to a voting center to register, that is not the end of the registration process. After the registration is done, the data is compiled as a provisional data of registered voters. It is then exhibited for voters to go and check if their details have been rightly captured.
Richard, did you do the verification?
I did a verification via the code. You know, but in 2020 they had this code verification.
That you could.
So
you did.
Yeah.
Listen, and when you did, you checked down.
Look, let me go. Okay. So you go for voter exhibition to check if your details have been captured. If upon exhibition your details have been captured, it is published as a final register. It is certified by a judge. After that, nobody, not even the chairperson of the EC, can add a full stop to the register.
True.